Hey guys, and welcome back to Dan's Pro Shop. I'm Dan. In case you're new here, I have actually reviewed some Kaiweets stuff in the past. You know, Kaiweets is a company that kind of caters to electronic kind of stuff. Like they have different crimpers and strippers and multimeters, and now they are dipping a pinky toe into the pool with snazzy soldering irons. This particular one is a digital and it's powered by USB. So yeah, if you're interested, stick around. We'll unbox this thing, give it a go, and see what it's all about. Well, I guess first things first, let's just open this SOB up and see what's going on in the package, shall we? Intelligent electric soldering iron. How do you like that? Got some paperwork, that's awesome. So like I told you guys, this thing is USB powered. And look at the size of this power brick. And this thing actually has some heft to it. Like it's not your average just charge your cell phone kind of USB charger. This thing takes an input voltage of 100 to 240 volts with an output on the type C port of 3 amps and 9 volts. And on the USB A port, it has 5 volts at 4.5 amps or 9 volts at 3 amps. So apparently this thing is smart enough to know what output you're requiring. Either way, we'll get into that. But first of all, let's look at the presentation of this thing. That is snazzy, huh? And this, creme de la creme, is the soldering iron herself. And I tell you what, this brick weighs more than the whole thing. This probably weighs about the same as like a mechanical pen. This thing is super nice. And I guess let me do some digging and I'll figure out how this thing goes together, huh? So here's a better look at that power brick here. You see that we have a type A and a type C. And let's see if this thing can focus on there. You guys can see the actual input and output of this brick. So here is the actual soldering pen. And I'm telling you, this thing, this is probably just an extruded piece of aluminum. And obviously it has like a micro board or something in there controlling what's going on. Nice little rubber handle here. Just hold it like a pencil. And man, you could wield this thing all day because it doesn't weigh anything. And this guy here just appears to be like a little beauty cap. Whenever you go to put it away, you have this. This is what you're left with laying in your toolbox. Keep on going in the kit here. Wow, snazzy charging cable. A bunch of different tips for it. Oh, and they even give you a cute little base for this thing to prop up on. I mean, I feel like this is severely lacking, and chances are you're probably not going to use it because this looks like it's terrible. So, yeah. But we have what appears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tips that it comes with. Oh, and they supply part numbers with you. And it tells you like what they are, the shape, the part number. Oh, and even what it complies with. So whatever you're trying to do, it's, I don't know, maybe a little bit of troubleshooting. That's nice. But man, this cord, get a nice faux leather wrap there, because that's cool. But man, this is nice. This feels like, I don't know, like a fancy speaker cord or something. This isn't just like a crappy polyvinyl something. This is actually really nice. Maybe flexible PVC, but it won't kink on you. This is actually really nice. And we have a USB-C on both sides. So I'm guessing this is bidirectional, but probably shouldn't matter. Either way, either end plugs into this and then the other end into the power brick. So let's power this thing up, see what it does. So let's go ahead and pick a tip, any tip. We'll just take the first one in the rack for just for trying this out. Take off the little safety cap there. Look at that. Just pops right in. It's got a nice little detent. Let you know whenever you're in all the way. And it appears this thing is kind of built like a heater element, if you guys are familiar with those. It has like a ceramic insert in the center, probably a stainless steel tube on the outside and the electrode in the middle. It just all snaps together. Now we'll plug it in, see how it works. Plug that guy in. Oh, looky there. Nice little LCD display. It tells you what it wants you to do. Cool. So we're plugged in. Perhaps this thing needs to charge. I don't know if this has an internal battery. I tell you what, let me actually take a look at the book. I know that's not me, but let me take a look and see what this thing needs to work. All right, guys, I'm a schmuck. Like I showed you here how this thing goes in, apparently I was missing a very crucial step. You see that little collar there on the stainless part? You have to remove this top part. Apparently, this is like the retaining collar for it. So, you remove this, put in your soldering tip all the way until that's indexed at the top of the male thread. Then the collar goes down and locks everything in place. Now, check it out. Whenever we plug this thing in, power it up, you get a nice little welcome screen. And it lets you know that it's put together. So that thing that it was doing last time, that was telling me that my tip wasn't in all the way. It had nothing to do with the cord. But either way, now you choose one of these buttons. And look at that. 300 and some degrees Celsius. I know you can change this thing to Fahrenheit, so I'm going to have to look at it and see how that works. But I tell you what, this thing's getting hot already. Let me grab a spool of solder and see how we can tin that tip. So here we are with ye old Radio Shack again. Amen. Here's our iron up to 300C, whatever that means in freedom units. I got no idea. But look at that. Man, that thing heated up in no time. Compared to a traditional soldering iron, like here, let me grab one, I'll show you. Speaking of Radio Shack, bam, look at this guy. I picked this up whenever they were going out of business some years ago. I think I got this for like 10 bucks just walking out of the store one day. But this, if you guys are used to traditional soldering pens, this is it. It has a regular 110 plug on it, and this guy just turns on and gets hot. That's it. That's your option. It just gets hot. You can't control anything. Not to mention, this thing takes a month to Sundays to get up to operating temperature. So until now, this thing has been fine, and this has been the way to do precise soldering on printed circuit boards or small wiring and anything. However, this thing may go by the wayside because this thing, man, I'm telling you, that thing heated up in absolutely no time whatsoever. Like, you guys saw that in real time. That was no tomfoolery. This thing heated up to its operating temp in maybe 10 seconds, and we can control it, and we have a temperature readout right here. And you guys may not be able to see that very clearly here on this side. It tells you the supply voltage. Here we're bouncing back and forth between 19 and 20 volts, and this is our set point at 300. So this is all changeable. Look at that. In 10-degree increments. Up, down, yada, yada, yada. Let me figure out how to change this into so us American folk can read it. Okay, guys, I think I got this figured out. To power this thing down, there really isn't an on-off button, so you simply just unplug it to shut it off. Whenever this thing powers up, you get a nice little welcome screen and this. So either you can hit a button to go into the temperature mode so you can actually start cooking, or you hold both buttons down at the same time to enter the settings menu. So this one right here, you can choose the screen brightness for whatever reason. I think the one that it comes factory set with is fine. Move over, you can calibrate this thing so the thermocouple in the end is actually accurate to what's reading on the screen. And here temperature unit. That's what we're concerned with. But let's go around the dial just so you guys can see what we have here. The next one is sleep time. So if you leave this thing sitting on your bench hotter than who knows what for how long, you can set how long this thing goes before it automatically shuts off on its own. That's nice. Child lock. So this thing, if you activate it, you have to put in a certain different like a button orientation, or kind of like a padlock, like two lefts, one right, yada yada yada, in order to turn this thing on. That way your little kiddo can't get his grubby meat hooks up on the bench and grab this thing and start playing with it unless dad's in the garage watching. This handheld menu option here simply changes the orientation to the screen. It is set from the factory to be right-handed. That way if you're holding it like this, you can read the screen. But you can change this. So if you hold it in your left hand, the screen isn't upside down. It'll be facing the right way, the way you're looking at it. The next one here is voltage select. So like I mentioned earlier, on the right side of the screen there, I told you your input voltage and your set temperature. This is what allows you to change that input voltage. Like we were reading on the power brick over there, how it has a bunch of different output voltages. I guess for your specific scenario, whether it's Euro with 240 in or here in the States with 120, you have the ability to change the input voltage on this thing runs. It comes factory set at 20 volts, so it works fine. I'm just going to leave it be. And there we're back to the beginning again. So let's go to the temp unit. You're going to long press the right arrow, and then this is what allows you to change between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Once you get to the one that you want, just long press any button, and that gets you back out of the main menu. So once you're here, we just power it down, plug it back in, turn it on, go to our temp, and check that out. Now we are displaying Fahrenheit. So our current settings are 20 volts input. It's set at 536 degrees, and boom, look at that. You guys watched that in real time. So within, I don't know, the 5 or 6 seconds that I was jaw jacking, this thing got up to 540 degrees. Check this out. Man, that is unreal how quickly this thing heats up. For being powered with a USB, I can't explain this enough. So the tip of this thing is almost 400 degrees. Hold on, let me got that knob off there. The tip of this thing is almost 400 degrees, and you can hold this thing like a mechanical pencil. This literally weighs nothing. I can't, hold on, let me grab a scale and throw this thing on there. So I don't know if you guys are going to be able to read the screen there. There we go. So here we are set on grams. And mind you, this is with the cord plugged in. 50 grams. I don't know if you guys can really translate that into anything, but let's just say for sake of argument, here is a Fire Stick remote. Almost everybody has one of these. That weighs more than this. How awesome is this? I'm telling you, you can use this thing all day. It's not going to bother you at all. Alrighty, now that we kind of know what's going on with this thing and how it works and functions and whatnot, just for giggles here, let's actually solder something here. So I have a spool here of 18 gauge machine tool wire. And let's be honest, if you're using something like a soldering pen, chances are you're probably not going to do stuff much bigger than this. I mean, you can because of how hot that thing gets. But let's just, for sake of argument here. So we'll go ahead and strip the ends of this thing, fixture it up in here, and then I'll give you guys a good view of what's going on. So guys, in the first go around here, I'm just going to show you the screen so you can really see what's happening. The next time we do this, I'll back you guys up so you can see the whole thing and actually what I'm doing with my hands. But this will give you a really good idea of what's happening, much more so than what just the camera can see. So you guys can tell here, we have our soldering iron up to temp, 538 degrees. We'll get in here, tin the tip of our iron, get it ready to go. Smear a little schmoo on the top of this thing. Get her good and ready to accept everything that's gonna happen. And go ahead and put the tip underneath the wire. Heat everything up. and start sucking the solder through. I'm telling you, man, this is working really well, especially for how small of an iron this is. For it to take two 18 gauge wires and put them right together, that worked out really well. Now let me back up and do this again so you guys can see what my hands are doing. So we'll go ahead and strip a couple new ends here. Get everything set up for test number 2. And in case you guys are interested in the process of soldering wires, I actually made a video about how to do this entire process. In case you're interested, check it out right up here. Naturally after this video, but if you want to learn how to do this, what I feel to be the proper way, now that's like skinning a cat. Everybody does it differently, but I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a long time and it works. So if you're interested in seeing how that's done, go ahead and check out that video, or I'll put a link in the description just in case you missed. So we'll go ahead and fixture this back up here underneath the microscope. Hopefully I got you guys in a good enough view so you can see what my hands are doing, and maybe a little bit of focus. Focus, there we go. Now we can kind of see both the screen and my hands. So we got the iron heated up. Let's go ahead and tin it again. Get a good old gob there on the tip. Smear it all over the top. This gets the joint ready to accept the solder. Then I move down to the bottom of the joint, and the soldering iron will heat up the solder that I already put on top, and it starts wicking through it. Hopefully you guys can see that on the screen. This may be messing up the focus because I got my big fat hands in the way. Now that may not be the cleanest one I've ever done, but it worked pretty darn well. So we'll do one more, just for S's and G's here. I went ahead and cranked up the soldering iron all the way, which just so happens to be 780 degrees. You can tell that thing cooking, man. She's hot. So we'll go ahead and put that on that cute little holder thing that it comes with. Fix us up another joint. An electrical joint. Get your mind out of the gutter. Go ahead and fixture this up. Maybe you guys can see that pretty good. Let me see if I can't get in a little closer for you. There you go. Now we got this thing cooking at almost 800 degrees. Let's dive in here and see if our performance enhances. Oh yeah. Look at that. She's flowing now. I tell you what, man, I wouldn't have any reservations about using this for anything. Look at that. That was freaking immediate how well that worked. And let me tell you, here, we'll just touch it again. Look at that. Can you guys see that on the screen of the microscope? How immediately that wicks through the joint? Man, that is impressive. I did not expect to get that outcome out of this little thing. Let me give you a close-up on the screen of what I just did, just in case you missed it. Because I still got the iron here up at its max temperature, 780 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever that is in Celsius, I got no idea. But you guys can see my solder joint there, and right now it's cold. No problem. I'm going to go ahead and put the soldering iron right underneath it. Watch this. In just a couple seconds. Look at that. You see how it's pulling through the strands? This thing heats that up so quickly, it's unreal. This works so much better than my traditional plug-in one. I'm telling you, man, this thing is awesome. So guys, like I mentioned, how quickly this thing heats up. We're just going to do a little test so you guys can see how fast that is. Now, obviously, you can tell this thing is stone cold. No problem at all. It's not heated up. I'm not lying to you. So we're going to go ahead and set this thing up and then start a timer here. I'm going to let this thing roll and then start it at 10 seconds simply because my hands aren't that fast. But you guys can see here, I'll do my best to try to keep this all in frame so you can see what's going on. So we'll go ahead and plug it in. Let it get to its power screen here. And we had to start the timer. When we hit 10 seconds, start this. Look at that. 25 seconds to get to 780 degrees. I'm telling you, you don't want to touch that thing now. So guys, I'm pretty sure that I forgot to mention at the beginning of this thing, in case you're interested, the part number for this beauty little soldering iron here is KETS02. And don't worry, I will link it in the description. And I gotta tell you, I am absolutely blown away with the performance of this thing. Whenever I first read about it and kind of did a little bit of digging on the specs, I was super skeptical. Like, oh, you're telling me that you're gonna get a reliable soldering iron out of a USB charger? Not to mention the thing weighs like a pen. But dude, I am genuinely blown away with the performance of this little thing. And we got that little beauty cap. Where'd that thing go? So whenever you're done, you leave the tip in it, put this guy on here. Man, you could even carry this in your pocket if you wanted to. I don't know. You do you. But it's cool. Like, you don't necessarily have to wait for this thing to totally cool down before you throw it in the drawer or your toolbox or whatever. This thing is super snazzy. Like, I couldn't endorse this anymore. And honestly, I think for what it is, it performs awesome. And if you're into this kind of stuff, this may just be that new little gadget you've been looking for. So like I mentioned, I did make a video about soldering in this particular process in a little more detail. Yeah, you kind of got the point here, but I made a video specifically about this and how to do it. Like I mentioned, how I do it my way. I'm open to criticism. You know, everybody's got their own thing, but hey, it works for me. So by all means, check it out. See if that's the way that you like to do it. So if you guys are interested in this awesome little intelligent electronic soldering iron from Kaiweets, please check out the link in the description to grab one for yourself today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this thing, and we'll see you next time.